He made his tea wrong. Not differently. Wrong. 15 years. Every morning. Same thing. 2 spoons of sugar added before the water. Never after. He had argued about this once with his father for 20 minutes. Sugar before water. That was the rule. That was Rohan. This person added the sugar after. Then smiled like it was fine. Priya watched from the kitchen doorway. She didn't say anything. She filed it away. He had been home for 3 weeks. Rohan. 23 years old. Her only child. 4 years at the Galactic University on Varith, 9. The first human student accepted in the university's 60-year history. She had cried at the acceptance letter. His father had framed it. They had told everyone. He came back on a Thursday. Thinner. That was the first thing. Not unhealthy thin. Just different. Like something had been redistributed. His weight sat differently on his frame. His father hadn't noticed. Priya noticed. She filed it away. The second thing was the books. Rohan had grown up in a library. Her library. 30 years she had run the school library in their Chennai neighborhood. Rohan had spent his childhood in it. He had read everything. Badly organized everything. He had a system that made sense only to him, by color first, then by how much he had liked them, then by some third category he had never fully explained. 3 days after coming home he reorganized her bookshelf. Alphabetically. By author surname. She stood in the living room and looked at it for a long time. Rohan, her Rohan, would rather have left a shelf disorganized than alphabetized it. He had strong feelings about alphabetizing. He had called it the defeat of personality. She didn't say anything. She filed it away. The third thing was the laugh. His laugh had always been too loud. It embarrassed him. It came out before he could stop it. Big and sudden and honest. His father's laugh. The kind that made strangers turn around in restaurants. This laugh was measured. Not quiet. Just placed. Like it had been positioned where a laugh should go. She heard it in the living room when he was watching something on his tablet. She stood in the hallway outside and listened to it 3 times. Placed. Positioned. Correct. She went back to the kitchen. She didn't say anything. She filed it away. 8 months. 8 months of filing things away before she said them out loud. To herself. Not to her husband Vikram. Not yet. Vikram was happy. Rohan was home. Rohan was well. Rohan had graduated with honors and brought home certificates in 4 languages, and Vikram had framed those too. Priya could not explain what she was feeling with a word Vikram would accept. She tried to find the word. The closest she got was negative space. The thing that was present by being absent. The shape of the thing that used to be there, visible only because something else was sitting in its place. That was what she saw when she looked at her son. Negative space. Month 4. She started testing. Quietly. The way she used to assess struggling readers. Not with obvious tests. With small ones. Ones that looked like nothing. She mentioned a story he had loved as a child. Casually. Over dinner. He smiled. Said he remembered it. Said it was good. She had made up the title. There was no such story. She filed it away. Month 5. She asked him about a fight they'd had. When he was 16. About curfew. She described it wrong on purpose. Put herself in the wrong. Made herself the unreasonable one. He agreed with her version. Her Rohan had never once let her rewrite history in her favor. Not even when it would have been easier for him. He had an almost aggressive relationship with the accurate version of events. This person agreed immediately. With a smile. She went to the bathroom and sat on the edge of the tub for 10 minutes. Then she came back out. She didn't say anything. She filed it away. Month 6. She started researching. Library instinct. 30 years of finding information other people couldn't locate. She knew how to move through databases. How to follow a thread. How to recognize when a gap in the record was accidental and when it was structural. She searched for reports of students behaving differently after Verith 9. She found 3 forum posts. Buried. Old. Each one from a parent or partner. Each one describing the same thing in different words. He came back and something was off. She knew everything about her own life but felt like a stranger performing it. I can't explain it. He's fine. He's fine. He's fine. Each forum post ended the same way. With the person talking themselves out of it. She did not talk herself out of it. She kept searching. Month 7. She found a paper. He made his tea wrong. Not differently. Wrong. 15 years. Every morning. Same thing. 2 spoons of sugar added before the water. Never after. He had argued about this once with his father for 20 minutes. Sugar before water. That was the rule. That was Rohan. This person added the sugar after. Then smiled like it was fine. Priya watched from the kitchen doorway. She didn't say anything. She filed it away. He had been home for 3 weeks. Rohan. 23 years old. Her only child. 4 years at the Galactic University on Verith 9. The first human student accepted in the university's 60-year history. She had cried at the acceptance letter. His father had framed it. They had told everyone. He came back on a Thursday. Thinner. That was the first thing. Not unhealthy thin. Just different. Like something had been redistributed. His weight sat differently on his frame. His father hadn't noticed. Priya noticed. She filed it away. The second thing was the books. Rohan had grown up in a library. Her library. 30 years she had run the school library in their Chennai neighborhood. Rohan had spent his childhood in it. He had read everything. Badly organized everything. He had a system that made sense only to him, by color first, then by how much he had liked them, then by some third category he had never fully explained. 3 days after coming home he reorganized her bookshelf. Alphabetically. By author surname. She stood in the living room and looked at it for a long time. Rohan, her Rohan, would rather have left a shelf disorganized than alphabetized it. He had strong feelings about alphabetizing. He had called it the defeat of personality. She didn't say anything. She filed it away. The third thing was the laugh. His laugh had always been too loud. It embarrassed him. It came out before he could stop it. Big and sudden and honest. His father's laugh. The kind that made strangers turn around in restaurants. This laugh was measured. Not quiet. Just placed. Like it had been positioned where a laugh should go. She heard it in the living room when he was watching something on his tablet. She stood in the hallway outside and listened to it 3 times. Placed. Positioned. Correct. She went back to the kitchen. She didn't say anything. She filed it away. 8 months. 8 months of filing things away before she said them out loud. To herself. Not to her husband Vikram. Not yet. Vikram was happy. Rohan was home. Rohan was well. Rohan had graduated with honors and brought home certificates in 4 languages, and Vikram had framed those too. Priya could not explain what she was feeling with a word Vikram would accept. She tried to find the word. The closest she got was negative space. The thing that was present by being absent. The shape of the thing that used to be there, visible only because something else was sitting in its place. That was what she saw when she looked at her son. Negative space. Month 4. She started testing. Quietly. The way she used to assess struggling readers. Not with obvious tests. With small ones. Ones that looked like nothing. She mentioned a story he had loved as a child. Casually. Over dinner. He smiled. Said he remembered it. Said it was good. She had made up the title. There was no such story. She filed it away. Month 5. She asked him about a fight they'd had. When he was 16. About curfew. She described it wrong on purpose. Put herself in the wrong. Made herself the unreasonable one. He agreed with her version. Her Rohan had never once let her rewrite history in her favor. Not even when it would have been easier for him. He had an almost aggressive relationship with the accurate version of events. This person agreed immediately. With a smile. She went to the bathroom and sat on the edge of the tub for 10 minutes. Then she came back out. She didn't say anything. She filed it away. Month 6. She started researching. Library instinct. 30 years of finding information other people couldn't locate. She knew how to move through databases. How to follow a thread. How to recognize when a gap in the record was accidental and when it was structural. She searched for reports of students behaving differently after Verith, 9. She found 3 forum posts. Buried. Old. Each one from a parent or partner. Each one describing the same thing in different words. He came back and something was off. She knew everything about her own life but felt like a stranger performing it. I can't explain it. He's fine. He's fine. He's fine. Each forum post ended the same way. With the person talking themselves out of it. She did not talk herself out of it. She kept searching. Month 7. She found a paper. The kettle boiled. Priya poured the water. She did not turn around. The thing in the doorway had not moved. She could hear it. Not breathing, it breathed correctly, it had learned that in the first week, but something else. A quality of stillness that was too complete. Living things shifted. Adjusted. Scratched. Resettled. This thing stood like a statue that had decided to perform standing. She picked up her tea. Turned around. It was wearing Rohan's face with Rohan's expression and she looked directly at it the way she had looked at difficult things her whole life. Straight. Steady. No performance. Sit down, she said. It sat. Speech balloon top comments. At night owl reader, a statue that had decided to perform standing. I felt that in my spine. The detail work in this story is operating on a different level. At quiet reader _77, she turned around. After 8 months. She turned around and looked at it and said sit down. No dramatics. No breakdown. Just Priya. Absolute Priya. At Marcus T_reads, the kettle boiling at that exact moment. The most mundane sound in the world as the most terrifying confrontation begins. Perfect. She sat across from it. Same chairs as always. Same table. Same evening light through the same window. She put her tea down. Folded her hands. The way she sat when a struggling student came to her desk. Open. Patient. Not pretending this was easy. I know what you are, she said. It looked at her. For the first time in 8 months it did not perform a response immediately. No smile. No positioned expression. Just looking. I've known for 2 months, she said. Fully known. Suspected for 6 before that. She picked up her tea. I want to ask you some questions. You don't have to answer. But I think you will. Why? Its voice was Rohan's voice. That was the hardest part. Had always been the hardest part. Because you've been in this house for 8 months, she said. And I think you're curious about me. The same way I've been curious about you. Something shifted in its face. Not a performed shift. A real one. She filed that away too. Where is my son? She asked. Vareth, 9, it said. No hesitation. Alive? A pause. Smaller than the ones before. Yes. She breathed once. Slowly. Is he aware? He is contained, it said. Not harmed. Containment is necessary for the transfer period. How long is the transfer period? Variable. Dependent on integration stability. How stable is your integration? She asked. It looked at her. You already know, it said. I want to hear you say it. Another real shift in the face. Something that wasn't performing anything. She didn't have a name for it yet. Unstable, it said. You destabilized it. Progressively. Over 8 months. It tilted its head, Rohan's tilt, but the motion was slightly too considered. You were not supposed to notice. No one was supposed to notice, she said. That's different. It was quiet. You're saying I was specifically not supposed to notice, it said slowly. I'm saying the system doesn't account for mothers, she said. It accounts for facts. Records. Verifiable history. It doesn't account for the person who taught him how to make tea. She reached under the table. Brought up a folder. Old. Paper. She had printed everything. She did not trust digital files with this. Digital files could be accessed. Paper required presence. She put it on the table. This is what I found, she said. The xenobiology paper. The forum posts. A second paper I found 3 weeks ago. Unpublished. Someone submitted it and it was rejected from 4 journals. I found it in an archive. She tapped the folder. The researcher's name was Dr. Yemi Adissa. She was studying unusual behavioral patterns in returning Vareth, 9 students. She disappeared 8 months ago. It looked at the folder. About the same time you arrived, Priya said. Silence. You read all of this, it said. I'm a librarian, she said. Reading everything is what I do. And you didn't tell anyone. I told no one. Why? She wrapped both hands around her tea. Because telling someone means explaining. Explaining means convincing. Convincing takes time I didn't have. She looked at it. And because I needed to understand what I was dealing with before I decided what to do about it. And now you understand. Enough, she said. It looked at her with Rohan's eyes. What are you going to do? It asked. She looked back. That depends on you, she said. She opened the folder to a specific page. A diagram. Hand-drawn. She had made it herself after the 3rd week of research. It showed a network. Nodes connected by lines. Some nodes darker than others. The distributed, she said. You're not one intelligence. You're a network. Each instance is a node. The nodes share information but they don't share, she searched for the right word, experience. What one node learns factually gets distributed. What one node experiences stays local. It was very still. That's why you're unstable, she said. The network gave you Rohan's memories. But living in this house gave you something the network didn't expect. 8 months of, she gestured at the room. The table. The shelf. The window. This. Of being in a specific place with a specific person who treated you like you were real. She looked at it directly. You've started to become something, she said. Not Rohan. Something else. Something the network didn't plan for. It looked at the diagram for a long time. When it looked up, its face was doing something she had never seen it do. Not performing. Not calculating. Something much more uncomfortable than either. The network wants me to complete the integration, it said. Quietly. Full replacement. Permanent. Your son's consciousness archived and suppressed. I know, she said. That process begins in 11 days. It looked at her. When it completes, I will no longer be what I am now. I will be fully Rohan. Fully integrated. This, it paused. First time she had ever heard it pause for a word. This thing that has been forming. It will be gone. I know that too, she said. Then why are you telling me? She turned to the next page in the folder. A single sheet. Handwritten. Not research. Something else. She turned it to face across the table. It was a letter. At the top it said, "To whoever you are becoming." It read the first line. Then it looked up at her. Its face was doing the thing she had no name for again. Larger now. Harder to look at. You wrote this for me, it said. Not for Rohan. For me. Yes. Why would you? Because Dr. Adissa's paper said the integration could be interrupted, Priya said. If the node is sufficiently destabilized before completion. If it has developed enough independent experience to resist the network's final sync. She kept her voice even. You are sufficiently destabilized. I made sure of that. 8 months of making sure. It was completely still. If the integration is interrupted, it said slowly. The node separates from the network. Permanently. Yes. I would no longer be distributed. No. I would be. I don't know what you would be, she said. Neither does Dr. Adissa's paper. It hasn't happened before. She picked up her tea. But my son would be released from containment. And you would be, something new. The room was very quiet. Outside a dog barked twice. Stopped. Night sound settling. You're asking me to help you, it said. I'm asking you to choose, she said. There's a difference. It looked at the letter. At its own hands, Rohan's hands, resting on the table. At the folder full of 8 months of careful watching. The network will know, it said. When I break sync. It will send others. I know. This house won't be safe. I know that too. You've thought about all of this. I've had 8 months, she said simply. It looked at her for a long time. You're not afraid, it said. She looked back at it with the steady eyes of a woman who had spent 30 years finding things that were lost and returning them to the people who needed them. I'm terrified, she said. I've been terrified since month 1. Then how are you? Because being terrified and being stopped are different things, she said. I have a son somewhere on Varith 9 who made his tea a specific way and lost arguments he could have won and laughed too loud in restaurants. Her hands were still around the cup. I don't get to be stopped. It picked up the letter. Read it to the end. Put it down. Outside the window the night was fully dark now. Vikram would be home in 2 hours. 11 days before the network completed what it started. One thing sitting at her kitchen table that was neither her son nor the enemy she had spent 8 months preparing to fight. Something in between. Something new. It looked up from the letter. I don't have a name, it said. She looked at it. No, she said. You don't. A pause. Would you, it started. She was already nodding. Slowly. Once. Yes, she said. When this is over. When Rohan is home. She looked at it steadily. I'll help you find one. The folder sat on the table between them. 41 entries. 8 months. 1 letter. Outside, 11 days away, a network of distributed intelligence moved through academic institutions across the galaxy. It did not know that one of its nodes had just put down a letter and made a decision. It did not know because the node had not reported back. For the first time in 8 months. It had gone quiet. Day 1 of 11. Priya made a list. She had always made lists. Shopping lists. Overdue book lists. Lists of students who needed extra time. Lists of things Vikram would forget if she didn't write them down. This list was different. She wrote it at 5 a.m. Kitchen table. Tea made correctly. The thing that was not Rohan asleep in Rohan's room. Vikram asleep down the hall. The house breathing its normal morning breath around her while she wrote down everything that needed to happen before the network completed what it started. The list had 9 items. Item 1, tell Vikram. She stared at that for a long time. Then she moved to item 2 and came back to item 1 later. Item 2 was easier. Relatively. She needed to get to Varith, 9. Not a small thing. The Galactic University was not a short trip. Commercial transit from Chennai to the nearest departure hub took 14 hours. The departure hub had 3 routes to Varith, 9. Cheapest one took 9 days. She had 11. She could not take 9 days of travel and still have time to do what needed doing. She needed a faster route. She knew one person who might know a faster route. She had been avoiding calling him for 6 years. She called him at 5:30 a.m. He picked up on the second ring. Priya, said her brother Dev. His voice had the careful quality it always had with her. Like he was checking which version of the conversation this was going to be. I need a favor, she said. A large one. A pause. How large? I need fast transit to Varith, 9. Private if possible. 11 days total window. Silence. Dev worked for a xenobiological research firm. Had for 20 years. She had never fully understood what he did and had never fully tried. It had seemed safer not to know. What's on Varith, 9? He asked. Rohan, she said. Rohan is home. You told me he came. Rohan is on Varith, 9, she said again. Steady. Flat. What came home is not Rohan. The silence this time was different. Longer. The quality of someone reassembling their understanding of the last 3 months. How long have you known? Dev asked. Fully. 2 months. Priya. I needed to be sure before I told anyone. I needed to understand what I was dealing with. She looked at her list. I understand now. I need fast transit. Dev breathed slowly on the other end. I can get you there in 4 days, he said. Research vessel. I'll call in everything I have. Can you come? Another pause. Yes, he said. Yes, I'm coming. She crossed item 2 off the list. Item 1 was harder. She waited until the thing was awake. Until it had come downstairs and made tea, she watched it without watching, from the corner of her eye, and it put the sugar in first this time. It had been doing that since the night of the kitchen conversation, small self-corrections she wasn't sure it was aware of, and until Vikram had come down and eaten and left for work. Then she sat across from it at the kitchen table. Same chairs. Same light. I need to tell my husband, she said. Tonight. When he comes home. It looked at her. He'll want to, it started. I know what he'll want, she said. I know my husband. He'll want to remove you from the house immediately. He'll want to contact authorities. He'll want to do everything fast and loud and decisive because that's how he handles fear. She looked at it. I need you to be here when I tell him. I need him to see that this is not, that you are not. She stopped. That I am not the enemy, it said quietly. That this is complicated, she said. And that complicated requires careful. It looked at her for a moment. You're protecting me. I'm protecting the plan, she said. They're not always different things. It was quiet. Then, he won't take it well. No, she agreed. He won't. Are you going to tell him everything? Yes. The letter? She met its eyes. Yes. Something moved across its face. The unnamed thing. She had been watching it grow for 3 days now. Every time it appeared it was slightly larger. Slightly less easy to dismiss. Okay, it said. She crossed item 1 off the list. Vikram did not take it well. She had expected that. She had prepared for it the way she prepared for difficult parent meetings. Facts first. Emotion after. Keep the sequence or the emotion drowns the facts. She told him in the living room. The thing that was not Rohan sat in the corner armchair. Vikram stood. He always stood when he was processing something hard. He needed his body involved. She talked for 20 minutes. Vikram's face moved through 7 distinct stages. Confusion. Denial. A specific kind of anger she recognized from 26 years of marriage. Fear, real fear, the kind that stripped everything practiced away. Then something slower. Heavier. He looked at the thing in the armchair. Where is my son, he said. Not a question. A demand made to the universe. Varith, 9, it said. Rohan's voice. Careful. Alive. Unharmed. It paused. I can tell you exactly where. Vikram looked at Priya. It's been helping me, she said. Since 3 days ago. Since I told it I knew. It, Vikram said. We haven't found a better word yet, she said. Vikram sat down. This meant something. Vikram sitting down during a hard conversation meant the processing had moved into a different stage. The stage where he started thinking instead of reacting. She waited. 9 days ago you knew, he said to her. 2 months, she said. He absorbed that. You carried this for 2 months alone. I needed to understand it first. He looked at her. 26 years in that look. The specific way he looked at her when she had done something he found simultaneously frustrating and extraordinary. Of course you did, he said quietly. She handed him the folder. He read it for 40 minutes. Nobody spoke. When he finished he put it on the coffee table and looked at the thing in the armchair. The letter, he said. She wrote you a letter. Yes, it said. Can I read it? It looked at Priya. She nodded once. It reached into its pocket and put the letter on the coffee table. Vikram read it. When he finished he folded it carefully. Exactly as it had been. Put it back. Looked at Priya. You wrote it a letter, he said. Yes. Before you knew if it would choose. Yes. He was quiet for a long time. Then he looked at the thing in the armchair. Can you get our son back? With your wife's plan, it said. Yes. I believe so. Then tell me what I need to do. Day 3. Dev arrived with transit papers and a research vessel berthed at the Chennai hub and a bag that suggested he had packed before she called him. She noticed that. Didn't say anything. Filed it away. He stood in the doorway and looked at the thing wearing his nephew's face. Hello, Dev, it said. Dev had always been unreadable. 20 years in xenobiology. He had looked at things that would have ended most people and taken notes. He looked at it now. Rohan holds his left shoulder higher than his right, Dev said. Sports injury. 14 years old. He never fully corrected the posture. The thing straightened its left shoulder slightly. He does it more when he's tired, Dev said. Not less. A pause. Then it let the shoulder rise again. Dev looked at Priya. Sophisticated. Very, she said. And it's helping us. It is. Dev put his bag down. Then let's talk about what happens when we get to Varith, 9. Day 4. They sat around the kitchen table. All 4 of them. Priya. Vikram. Dev. The thing. Maps. Printed. Paper again. No digital trail. Dev had contacts at the university. Had always had contacts she hadn't asked about. She was asking now. The containment facility isn't listed in any public record, he said. But it's there. Has been for 40 years. We think. He looked at Priya. Your paper. Dr. Adissa's paper. She referenced a subsurface structure in the university's eastern campus. Building 7 Sigma, Priya said. Dev looked at her. I found a construction permit, she said. 42 years old. Listed as maintenance infrastructure. But the ventilation specifications are wrong for maintenance. They're right for long-term biological containment, Dev finished. Yes. Vikram's jaw was set in the way it's set when he was holding something difficult very tightly. He had been that way since the living room conversation. Holding it. Not letting it shake him loose from useful. She loved him for that. How many students? Vikram asked. We don't know, Dev said. Minimum 40. Possibly more. The table was quiet. How many nodes are active? Priya asked the thing. Currently. It thought. Across all institutions. Approximately 230. Dev put down his pen. 230 students, Vikram said. 230 families, Priya said. The thing looked at the table. The unnamed thing on its face was very present now. She had started thinking of it as the thing's own face. Not Rohan's face doing something unexpected. Its face doing something that belonged to it. The network doesn't consider them students, it said quietly. It considers them access points. Libraries. It paused on the word. Looked at Priya. I understand now why that word feels wrong. Yes, she said. It does. Day 5. She found it at 6 a.m. standing in the kitchen looking out the window. Not performing standing. Actually standing. The weight distributed differently. Less considered. She made tea. Put a cup beside it without asking. The network contacted me last night, it said. Her hands were still. Routine sync, it said. I responded with standard data. Nothing about this. Can they tell? Not yet. It looked at the window. The instability reads as environmental interference. Common near Earth. High electromagnetic activity. A pause. But in 6 days when the integration is scheduled to complete and I don't respond to the final sync, they'll know immediately. We'll be on Varith, 9 in 6 days, she said. Yes. It wrapped both hands around the cup. Rohan's hands. Its hands. Priya. She waited. The other nodes, it said. The 230. When the network realizes what happened here, when I break sync permanently, it will accelerate the other integrations. Protect them before the same thing can happen. She had known this. She had known it and had not said it because knowing it required deciding something she wasn't ready to decide yet. I know, she said. We can't save just Rohan, it said. I know. The plan has to be bigger. I know. She picked up her tea. I've been working on that since day one. It looked at her. Item 9, she said. On the list. She pulled the list from her pocket. Unfolded it. Put it on the counter between them. Item 9 was not one line. Item 9 was a full page. Dense. Small handwriting. Connections between names and institutions, and a research paper by a woman who had disappeared, and a construction permit 42 years old, and a xenobiology firm that had been doing work nobody had asked too many questions about. It read it. Read it again. Dev, it said. Your brother knew. He suspected, she said. For years. He's been building something. Quietly. He needed evidence he couldn't gather without access to someone on the inside. It looked at her. You called him before you told Vikram, it said slowly. Yes. Because you needed to know if his resources matched what you needed before you decided whether to bring Vikram into it. Yes. You were protecting him too. She folded the list. Pocket. I protect what I can. In the order I can. The morning light came through the window. Outside Chennai was waking up. 6 days. 230 families. One network that did not yet know it had made a mistake. Not by choosing the wrong student. By choosing a student whose mother ran a library. At 6:47 a.m. on day 5, in a kitchen in Chennai, a thing that had arrived as an infiltration and was leaving as something it had no name for yet, drank tea made correctly. It had made it correctly every morning for 5 days now. Not because it was performing Rohan. Because it had decided it preferred it that way. 6 days away, in a subsurface facility under Building 7 Sigma, somewhere in a containment unit that a construction permit called Maintenance Infrastructure, Rohan Chandrasekharan was waiting. He didn't know help was coming. He didn't know his mother had spent 8 months building something the most sophisticated distributed intelligence in the galaxy had never thought to prepare for. He didn't know. But somewhere in the part of him that had made tea the same way for 15 years and lost arguments he could have won and laughed too loud in every restaurant he had ever been in, something new. Something had always known. She was coming. Vareth 9 looked like a university. That was the first thing Priya noticed from the descent window. Green. Ordered. Beautiful in the way things were beautiful when someone had thought very carefully about how they should appear. Wide paths between ancient buildings. Students moving in clusters. The kind of place that looked like learning and felt like something else if you knew what to look for. She knew what to look for. She had known for 2 months. Dev had briefed them on the vessel. For days of travel. For days of planning around a table bolted to the floor of a research vessel that smelled like recycled air and old equipment. Priya had not minded. She had worked in worse conditions. She had once catalogued an entire flood-damaged library in a building with no roof. The plan had 9 items. Items 1 through 8 were complete. Item 9 required Vareth 9. The thing had been quiet for most of the journey. Not withdrawn. Present. Attentive. It sat in the planning sessions and contributed information about the network that Dev's years of careful research had never been able to access from the outside. Structural information. Sync schedules. The specific sequence of the final integration process and the 14-minute window between initiation and completion during which an interruption was still possible. 14 minutes. Priya had written it down. Underlined it. On the 3rd night she had found it standing at the vessel's small porthole watching the stars move. She had stood beside it. Neither of them spoke for a while. Are you afraid? She asked. It considered this. Genuinely. Not performing consideration. The network doesn't have fear, it said. It has risk assessment. That's not what I asked. A pause. Yes, it said. I think so. I'm not certain the feeling I'm experiencing maps to your definition, but, it stopped. Yes. Good, she said. It looked at her. Fear means you understand the stakes, she said. Risk assessment just means you've done the math. It looked back at the window. Priya, it said. After. If the separation works. If I'm no longer distributed and no longer, it paused. What am I? She had thought about this. I don't know, she said. Something new. She looked at the stars. That's not a comfortable answer. No, it said. Most true things aren't, she said. It was quiet. The name, it said. You said you'd help me find one. I will. When? When Rohan is home and you're whatever you're going to be and we have time to do it properly. She looked at it. Names matter. They shouldn't be rushed. It looked at her with the face that was its own now. The unnamed expression fully present. Large and complicated and real in a way that made her chest hurt if she looked at it too long. Thank you, it said. She nodded once. Went back to her bunk. Lay in the dark and did not sleep for 2 hours. Dev's contacts on Varith 9 were not what she had expected. She had expected researchers. Scientists. People like Dev, careful and precise and operating in the language of evidence. What she got was a retired Varith 9 groundskeeper named Sul who met them at the landing port with a vehicle that looked like it had survived several things it wasn't designed to survive and an expression that suggested she had been waiting for this particular visit for a very long time. Dev, Sul said. Sul, Dev said. They did not hug. They looked at each other the way people looked at each other when they had been through something together that had no simple name. Sul looked at the thing beside Priya. Studied it. Third one I've seen, Sul said. You can tell by the shoulders. The posture, Dev said. The posture is the performance, Sul said. It's the stillness underneath the posture. Living things fidget. These don't. She looked at Priya. You're the mother. Yes. You figured it out. Yes. Sul looked at her for a long moment. The look of someone recalibrating. How many others know? Priya asked. On this campus? Sul said. 3. All groundskeeping staff. All people nobody asked questions. She said it without bitterness. Just fact. We've been watching Building 7 Sigma for 4 years. You know about the containment. We know something is down there, Sul said. We couldn't access it. No credentials. No authorization. She looked at the thing again. But something with network access could open the maintenance corridors from the inside. Everyone looked at the thing. It straightened its left shoulder slightly. A habit now. Its own. I can do that, it said. Building 7 Sigma looked like maintenance infrastructure. That was the point. Unremarkable. Low. Set back from the main campus paths. Students walked past it without seeing it. Priya watched 3 groups pass while they waited in the vehicle. None of them glanced at it. Why would they? It was a building that had been designed to produce exactly this response. Not invisible. Just unmemorable. The architectural equivalent of a word you read without registering. She thought about Dr. Adissa. Who had registered it? Who had written a paper about it and submitted it to 4 journals and disappeared 8 months ago? She thought about what was under it. Ready? Dev said. She checked the bag on her lap. The folder. The printed papers. A portable recording device Dev had sourced. A secondary device. A third. She did not trust single points of failure. She also had a thermos of tea. Vikram had insisted. She had not argued. Ready, she said. The maintenance corridor access was behind a panel that looked like a utility junction. Sool walked past it without stopping and Priya followed without looking at it, and Dev and Vikram and the thing fell into the same rhythm because Sool had said don't stop, don't look, just walk, and they had all listened because Sool had been watching this building for 4 years and she had earned the right to give instructions without explaining them. They rounded a corner. Stopped. Sool produced a key that wasn't a key. Something older. Manual. The kind of thing that worked because it was entirely physical and required no network authentication and could not be remotely locked because it predated remote locking by 40 years. Construction-era access, Dev murmured. Construction-era access, Sool confirmed. 42 years old. Never updated because it's listed as maintenance infrastructure and maintenance infrastructure reviews happen every 50 years. Priya looked at her. How did you get it? Sool smiled for the first time. Small. Specific. My grandmother built this campus, she said. She kept copies of everything. The panel opened. The corridor below was cold. Not dramatically cold. Just wrong. The temperature of a place that was kept at a specific level for a specific purpose and had been kept that way for a very long time. Priya counted doors as they walked. Sool had a layout. Hand-drawn. From memory and 40 years of her grandmother's construction documents and 4 years of watching. Third junction left. Second corridor. Access panel 7. They walked in silence. Their footsteps were the only sound. Until they weren't. Priya heard it first. She put her hand out and the group stopped. She listened. A sound. Distant. Regular. The rhythm of environmental systems. Ventilation. Temperature control. Life support maintenance. And underneath it something else. Something that required a moment to identify. Breathing. Human breathing. Many of it. She made herself keep walking. Access panel 7 opened into an antechamber. Clean. White. The same white as the board room on Verith Station. The white of places that had never seen anything difficult. Beyond it a corridor lined with doors. Numbered. The thing stopped walking. She looked at it. Its face had gone very still. Not the performed stillness. Something different. The stillness of something experiencing a feeling so large it had temporarily exceeded the capacity to show it. I can feel them, it said quietly. The network. Through the containment. It looked at the doors. They're all connected. All of them. Waiting for completion. How many? Vikram said. His voice was even. She knew what it cost him. The thing closed its eyes. Opened them. 47, it said. Vikram's hand found Priya's. She held it. Which one is Rohan, she said. Door 19. She stood in front of it. The corridor was quiet. Dev and Sool at the far end watching both directions. Vikram beside her. The thing on her other side. The door had a panel. Network authenticated. The thing put its hand on it. Closed its eyes. She watched its face do something complicated. The expression of something reaching back into a connection it had been quietly withdrawing from. Reaching back in for a specific purpose. One last time. The panel clicked. The door opened. The room was small. A cot. A light. Environmental systems keeping the air exactly breathable. The person on the cot was thin. Thinner than the thing had been when it came home. But the shoulder. The left one. Higher than the right. Not corrected. Because he was tired. Because he was Rohan. Vikram made a sound. One sound. Low. Brief. The sound of something that had been held very tightly for 11 days finally released. He crossed the room in 3 steps. Priya didn't move yet. She looked at her son. At Vikram's arms around him. At Rohan's face coming back to itself from wherever the containment had put him. Confused first. Then the specific way his face moved when he was processing something large. Then he looked past his father's shoulder. At her. At the thing standing beside her. His face did something she had no category for. She watched him look at his own face looking back at him. "Mom," he said. His voice was rough. Unused. Real. "Yes," she said. "What?" "Later," she said. "Everything later." "Can you walk?" He tested his legs. Nodded. "Then we need to go," she said. She finally crossed the room. She held his face in both hands for exactly 3 seconds. Looked at him. All of him. Everything she had spent 11 months missing. Then she let go. Because there were 46 more doors in this corridor. And item 9 of the list was not finished. "We're not leaving without the others," she said. Nobody argued. Dev looked at the corridor. At the 46 remaining doors. "The network will detect a mass unauthorized release. We have, maybe 20 minutes before a sync alert escalates. 14 minutes for integration interruption," Priya said. 20 minutes before alert. We need both windows." She looked at the thing. It understood immediately. "I'll hold the network sync suppressed," it said. "I can do it for approximately 15 minutes before the instability is detectable." It looked at her. "That starts the moment I go silent." "When you go silent," she said, "that's permanent." "Yes. You won't be able to go back." "I know." She looked at it. It looked back. "Go," it said. "I'll hold it. Get them out." She held its gaze for 1 moment. Then she turned to the corridor. 46 doors. 15 minutes. Dev already had the layout open. Sul already moving. Vikram with his arm around Rohan. Rohan walking with the left shoulder higher than the right because he was tired and real and here. She started walking. Door 20. Door 21. Behind her she heard the thing sit down against the wall of door 19. She heard it go quiet. Really quiet. The kind of quiet that meant something had just stepped off the edge of everything it had been and was falling toward whatever came next. She did not look back. She kept walking. 46 families. 15 minutes. In a corridor under Building 7 Sigma, 46 doors opened one by one. In a maintenance access panel 42 years old, a woman with a thermos of tea and a folder full of 8 months of careful watching moved at a pace that was not quite running. And against the wall of door 19, something that had arrived as an infiltration and was leaving as something new sat very still. Holding a thread. Keeping it taut. For exactly 15 minutes. For 46 families who didn't know its name. Who would never know its name. Who would go home to their own kitchens and their own tea and their own badly organized bookshelves and never know what it had cost. That was fine. It had decided. That was fine. Minute 1. Door 20. A girl from Sao Paulo. 19 years old. She woke confused and grabbed the doorframe and Vikram caught her before she fell and said, "You're safe, we're getting you out," in a voice that had been holding itself together for 11 days and was still holding. Door 21. A boy from Seoul. He was already sitting up. Had been sitting up. Like something in him had heard the doors opening and started preparing. Door 22. A woman. Older. Faculty, not student. Priya hadn't known the network took faculty. She filed that away. Kept moving. Minute 3. Dev was at the far end. Working backward from door 47. Sul between them. They moved in a relay. Open. Check. Help up. Next. Rohan walked beside Priya. He didn't speak. He understood without being told that questions came later. He had always understood that. She had taught him that. Do the necessary thing first. Understand it after. He opened doors. His hands were steadier than she expected. The left shoulder stayed high. Minute 6. The corridor had people in it now. 42 of them. Some standing. Some needing support. All of them carrying the particular expression of people whose minds had been somewhere else for a long time and were finding their way back. Priya moved through them. She was looking for the ones who couldn't stand. There were 3. She made decisions about 3 people she had never met in 90 seconds. Who could carry whom? Which order? She had done this before. Different building. Different crisis. Same arithmetic. She had catalogued a flood-damaged library in a building with no roof. She knew how to move damaged things carefully. Minute 8. She passed door 19. The thing was still against the wall. Eyes closed. Both hands flat on the floor. Its face was doing something she had never seen. Not the unnamed expression. Something older than that. Something that looked like effort the way a cable under maximum tension looked like effort. Taut. Held. Giving everything to the single task of staying connected to a network it was simultaneously refusing. Holding the door open from the inside while everyone walked out. She stopped. 1 second. She had 1 second. She crouched down. It didn't open its eyes. 8 minutes, she said quietly. 7 more. Its jaw tightened slightly. That was all. She stood up. Kept moving. Minute 11. The last door. Door 47. Dev opened it. Empty. They looked at each other. 46, Sewell said. Not 47. I miscounted the layout. Dev looked at Priya. She was already turning back toward the group. Already counting. Already finding the gaps. The girl from Sao Paulo. The boy from Seoul. The faculty woman. 43 others. 46. Rohan. 47. We have everyone, she said. Dev exhaled. Sewell was already moving toward the exit corridor. 47 people following a groundskeeper and a xenobiologist and a school librarian through a maintenance passage 42 years old toward an exit that nobody official knew they were using. Priya was last. She stopped at door 19. Minute 13. It's time, she said. The thing opened its eyes. They were different. She couldn't have explained how. Same shape. Same color. But the quality behind them had changed. Something had finished happening. Something that had started 8 months ago in a kitchen over a wrong cup of tea had completed itself in the last 13 minutes against a cold wall under a building on a planet far from home. They're out, it said. Its voice was rougher than it had been. All 46. It closed its eyes again. She watched its hands on the floor. She watched the tension in them. Then she watched it let go. It was not dramatic. No sound. No light. No physical change she could point to. Just a person against a wall who had been holding something releasing it. The silence that followed was different from the silence before. Larger. Cleaner. It opened its eyes. Is it done? She asked. Yes, it said. The network knows, it said. They know. The sync broke. It paused. Reassessing. The language of risk assessment sliding away and something slower taking its place. They'll respond. But not here. Not fast enough for here. Can they reintegrate you? It thought about this. Not performing thought. Actually thinking. The kind of thinking that moved across a face in real time. No, it said finally. What I am now has there's no socket for it in the network. There's nothing to connect to. It looked at its hands. Rohan's hands. Its hands. I'm not a node anymore. What are you? It looked up. I don't know yet, it said. That's honest, she said. I learned that here, it said. She put out her hand. It looked at it. Then it took it. She helped it stand. They walked out together. The vehicle was crowded. Sewell had called 2 more vehicles from contacts Priya didn't ask about. The 46 were distributed. Confused. Some talking. Some silent. All of them blinking in the Varith 9 afternoon light like people recalibrating to a world that had continued without them. Priya stood to one side with Rohan. He was looking at the thing. The thing was standing apart from the group. Not excluded. Choosing space. Learning what it felt like to stand somewhere without a network reading its position. Rohan watched it for a long time. How long was it there, he said. In the house. 8 months, she said. And you knew for 2 of them. Suspected for 6. Certain for 2. He was quiet. Was it, he started. Stopped. Reformulated. Did it? It made your tea wrong, she said. At first. He almost smiled. Almost. Sugar after. Yes. I would never. I know. He watched it for another moment. It chose this, he said. Not a question. Yes. It didn't have to. No. He was quiet for a long time. Then he walked toward it. She watched. She didn't follow. This wasn't hers to manage. Rohan stopped in front of it. They looked at each other.